Okay, boys, it is the new season, and with the new season, we have a bunch of new weapons. I want to go over all these things, as some of you are just wanting to look at the weapons and the random rolls. We will give suggestions on what the roll you should go for, but granted, some of these are pretty unique, and it's not until we actually test it, and of course see how it does in this sandbox, that we get a full understanding of where that weapon sits. With that being said, let's get started. First on the list, we have a kinetic auto rifle called the 7th SERAPH Carbine. Now this is a 450 round per minute auto, falling in that precision frame, pretty decent stats, and I believe the only way you can get this weapon is through the Rasputin quest line. Now weapon rolls, nothing new trait-wise this season, but it does come with things like Elemental Capacitor, which was a new trait brought to us in Season of the Dawn, Vorpal Weapon, as well as some other rolls here that makes this 450 unique. Now 450 round per minute auto rifles did get a buff inside of PvP this season. So for my PvP recommended roll, something that I would be really curious to see here is actually rangefinder for that increase in both range and zoom to allow this 450 to hang pretty much all the way up in pulse rifle territory, and slide shot. To me, that's a very unique combination that we have not seen on an auto rifle, at least to my knowledge. That's pretty much all I would go for PvP. Maybe if you wanted to stay in the lower ranges and you don't want to deal with that extra zoom, maybe something like slide shot in any damage dealing perk like Swashbuckler or Rampage, or even something there to help with that target acquisition when moving target, that's completely fine. But considering that 450s, the only thing that really makes them stand out above other weapons to me is the ability to stretch into those mid ranges. And having something like rangefinder and slide shot together can allow it to do just that. Now for PvE, I would say any of these damage dealing perks is just fine. Maybe even go the route of 4 times the charm and Rampage here. 4 times the charm does require to land 4 precision shots in order to return 2 rounds to the magazine, but combine that with something like Rampage could be extremely nasty, allowing you to stay with those stacks of Rampage for even longer, maybe even pair it with something like Actium War Rig. That would be the route that I would go for my PvE players. Now moving on, the next weapon on the list, the return of one of our most famous weapons, Dire Promise. And Dire Promise is a 150 round per minute hand cannon, falling in that lightweight frame. You can get this weapon as a raw drop this season. Now Dire was one of the best feeling hand cannons in year 1 of D2, as it wasn't necessarily lethal due to that static roll being pretty much garbage. The main thing that made it great was the fact that it just felt good. So the perks that we're going to go for are perks that allows it to feel even better than what it originally felt. AKA, we're just trying to make Dire Promise the most consistent hand cannon possible. So hands down, a trait that I recently reviewed on Waking Vigil that is such a good trait, opening shot, guys. That improved range and accuracy is fantastic. Now Waking Vigil, we actually had slide shot and opening shot together. Those two things would stack, thus allowing for that range to go even further. What makes Dire really unique here is that you can roll with something like opening shot and rangefinder together. Yes, you can go the route of super range, which I have no idea how that even plays out. I've never seen that on a hand cannon. It's something that definitely makes Dire Promise here pretty unique, and that's really the route I would go here. Now for my PvE players, you've got options. I would actually either go the route of Swashbuckler or Osmosis. Both of those perks are really good for any burn level activity. Considering that this is a kinetic weapon, Osmosis gives you a better buff than Swashbuckler or Rampage or any of them. So it's definitely not something to overlook, but anything outside of those activities where you don't have a burn, obviously Swashbuckler here would be the best route to go. And I would actually either pair it with Overflow, which is not found on many weapons, but my god, is this such a good trait as it really overflows that magazine when picking up special or heavy ammo. Probably combining that with something like Swashbuckler can allow you to sustain those 5 stacks of Swashbuckler for a very long time. If you don't want to utilize something like that, you could go with something like Triple Tap, but I would highly recommend Overflow over Triple in this situation. Now moving on to our next weapon, another kinetic hand cannon called the 7th SERAPH Officer Revolver. Again, another weapon tied to Rasputin and the SERAPH towers and everything involved with that. This is a 180 round per minute hand cannon, which was kind of surprising. I wasn't expecting that. It doesn't really have the look of a 180. Now 180s aren't the most popular, but this one has a couple unique things that may make you take a second glance at it. First up, we have perks like multi-kill clip, time payload, Osmosis, Vorpal, as well as something like Feeding Frenzy in that final column. Now, some conflicting perks here. I would have loved for multi-kill clip to be here in this column and Feeding Frenzy be in the other column. Really, there's no reload perks in our first trait column, which is kind of a bummer, which kind of rules out multi-kill clip for me. Yes, you can throw on other perks to boost that reload speed, but there's too many other weapons that come with something like Feeding Frenzy and multi-kill clip, or some level of reload perks whether that's outlaw or rapid hit, that I just don't want to sit here and entertain multi-kill clip without a reload trait. You could go the route of osmosis, still be able to take advantage of that great buff in burn activities, combined with maybe something like ambitious assassin or 4 times the charm. Not a bad route. The other thing that does interest me for PvP is actually time payload and firmly planted. Get your crouch on, gain that boost there to accuracy, and let time payload there flinch your opponents to hell and back. Now granted, it's still at 180, which means inside of PvP, you're looking at one of the worst time to kills in the game. It's not optimal. I would say it's going to require us to actually play with this hand cannon to see where it stands. If it's like super consistent and has some mad flinch capabilities, yeah, we might actually give it a go. Now moving on to our next weapon, True Prophecy. Oh, this is a 110 round per minute hand cannon, present in our kinetic slot. My God, so many kinetic weapons. It was actually, I think, the only weapon that came with time payload in year 1, or at least the first weapon that came with time payload, brought to us by Future War Cult, and this one also has some very unique traits. Now granted, I know 110s are not necessarily powerful, but Bungie has already stated that they are looking at 110s and 140s and will be possibly buffing them this season. So even though you may not like 110s right now, it's a very big possibility that this hand cannon, amongst other great 110s, will be much more competitive in the future, which is why locking down a roll for this thing is something I'm going to try to do. So first up, I am in love with the idea of rangefinder and explosive rounds, or rangefinder and time payload together. I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't think I've ever tried that before. Explosive payload already doesn't have damage fall off. Now granted, the impact damage does have damage fall off, but I'm very curious to know, number one, which one of those traits I even like more. I don't even know if I like time payload more or explosive. I think explosive payload might be my favorite simply because it applies that flinch right on the initial shot. You don't have to wait for it. So if you need to immediately flinch a sniper or something, boom, you got it. Time payload does have that slight delay. Now it does come with opening shot, which we've seen that before on other hand cannons. Pretty sure Duke comes with that. But time payload with something like explosive payload might be kind of funny to watch. And if you don't want to deal with the extra zoom, it's definitely a route to go. Something to not overlook though is rampage on a 110. Once you get that ball rolling and you get that first kill, I think the only thing that drives this weapon combo down, or this trait combo, is of course the range nerf that came out in Shadowkeep, which is why something like Rampage and Rangefinder together might actually be a good option. Now for my PvE players, you can go the route of Rampage, but that reload speed on this weapon is abysmal. Unless you have a magazine perk really buffing that, I urge you to now rely on Grave Robber. Yeah, I know, not many people use it, but Grave Robber in combination with something like Rampage, maybe even pseudo pair it with something like Bottom Tree Striker for that frontal assault, or Hamkar's Grasp, that seems like a pretty deadly combination. You could always go the route of Overflow in Rampage though. Again, don't overlook Overflow, guys. It really is a good trait. And with something like this paired with Rampage, maybe even with a Rampage spec, could be nasty. And for anyone that's running any type of grenade build, whether it's PvE or PvP, Demolitionist is definitely not a trait to overlook. Now moving on to our next weapon, we have the Scholar. Yes, this is a Trials weapon. Remind you of anything? This was actually the scout rifle from year 1 of Destiny 1. Now it's present in that high impact archetype and also present in the kinetic slot. Hands down, one of my favorite scout rifles in Destiny 1, which is why I'm going to be so harsh on this weapon when we get it this Friday. Now stat wise, it's not bad, but let's take a look at the traits. First up, we need to just analyze the new trait, at least the first one that we've seen for this season, Celerity. Gain the following effects while you are the last living member of your fire team. Increase target acquisition, increase handling and reload speed, reduce flinch from incoming fire. Bungie essentially took the last resort perk and injected it with like 3 other traits, man. Now I know some of you are like, whoa. I want a trait that helps me whether I'm in team engagements or I'm playing as a last member of my fire team. I want something to help me at all times. And I'm here to say, I completely understand that. But depending on the potency of Celerity, this may do some crazy stuff. So just based off of that, say for instance, we don't have lock loadouts and you can immediately swap to this scout rifle when you're the last member of your fire team. I would love to see Celerity together and perhaps either slideways, quick draw, or opening shot. Now, full auto, some of you are probably going to ask, why not full auto? Here's my thoughts on full auto, and I've had the same opinion for full auto since, like, I don't know, all of Destiny. Anything that is less than 180 rounds per minute in this game does not require full auto. And to some extent, it actually messes up your target acquisition. I feel like there's a lot of overshoot, and it happens when you lay on the trigger. And especially when we get into territories of like 150s, we're timing your shot to make sure you land crit after crit to get that crispy 3-tap. I highly advise not relying on something like full auto. But celerity there though, guys, may be one of the best traits we have ever seen. Combine that with these other traits that are of course going to make the scholar here more consistent, whether that's opening shot for that improved accuracy and range, whether that's slideways to make sure that you can just slide or reload your weapon for that boost in handling and stability, to maintain that lethality in between gunfights when you're trying to clutch up, or maybe just the quick draw in general, because this weapon doesn't necessarily have the best handling. And if it's like most 150s, quick draw may be extremely nice. It doesn't just benefit you on the draw time, it benefits you even when you're just going around a corner. That ready speed is extremely nice. This could be it, fellas. I'm so excited to try that. So much so that I don't even care about these other traits. I know these other traits are still pretty decent. You can go Vorpal, you can go no distractions, you can go snapshot for that immediate aim down sights, but I am just too hung up on that celerity trait. Now moving on, our next weapon on the list, we have Astral Horizon. Another kinetic, my God, are we gonna have nothing but kinetic weapons right now? This is a legendary kinetic shotgun, and I love that someone's already reviewed it. Haven't even gotten the weapon. Already gave it 4 out of 5 stars. That's great. Now this is a 55 round per minute shotgun, putting it in that aggressive frame archetype. Now, this may actually be the shotgun that replaces things like Mindbenders, but it's gotta have something key. It's gotta have quickness. It's gotta have fluidity. It's gotta have quick draw. Lo and behold here, fellas, it does. It's got quick draw. Not only does it have quick draw, it's got opening shot. Quick draw, opening shot together on an aggressive frame shotgun. Yes, I know shotguns have changed. I'm waiting for Fallout's video too. This right here, fellas, could be it. The trial weapons already. I mean, we're on trial weapon number 2, and I don't know about you, but I'm having a hard time keeping it together over here. Now, if you didn't want to go that route, you can of course go with something like slide shot, maybe even something like slide shot, 1-2 punch, maybe slide shot, opening shot, or you can actually take the route of celerity yet again and combine that with either slide shot or quick draw. There's just so many great options here. So many clutch up options. This is going to be one of those shotguns that I'm going to keep multiple rolls of. Now for my PvE players here, 1-2 punch, or even something like swash, you can either go with something like threat detector, field prep, auto loading holster. Not bad options there to help with both reload speed, reserves, or just letting something like auto loading holster pick up in those situations with 1-2 punch. But again, 1-2 punch just got nerfed, where it will not activate unless the weapon is out. If you stow it, that buff goes away. So something to keep in mind. Now moving on to our next weapon, we have ENIGMA'S Draw. That's right, our future War Cult sidearm has returned to us. Another damn kinetic. What the hell? Surely not. Surely we're not about to have every weapon in the kinetic slot. I'm starting to question it, man. Is Light GG broken? Now this is a 260 round per minute sidearm, putting it in that precision frame archetype with things like Lonesome. And there's one thing to say about these sidearms. They don't have the best time to kill value, but they're all about consistency, and they're all about stretching that range past what sidearms should do. So with that in mind, I would love to see something like opening shot and rangefinder together. Sure, you can go with one of these damage dealing perks, which is completely fine, but I want to know how far we can stretch the parameters of the sidearm. Now, if you didn't want to go that route, say you wanted to go super stable, Zen moment, rapid hit, that's a curious roll. Put those two together, every single shot, especially precision shot, your sidearm is as smooth as butter. Now, the other option for PvE players especially, Grave Robber, Swashbuckler, this is a fantastic combo. Throw those things together on a sidearm, combine it with some melee-based builds. The proc Swashbuckler ×5 could be disgusting. Something else to not overlook, full auto. Now, I know I said full auto is not necessary, but it's a sidearm, man. You know, it's a pea shooter. Unless you want to jam your finger up every time in something like PvE, you might want to go the route of something like full auto, maybe even something like full auto demolitionist, especially if you're going with a grenade build. So something to keep in mind. Enigma is back though, and she's looking sexy. Now moving on, Eye of Soul. Oh, so many people thought this was Revoker. D1 veterans would have rioted if they did not see Eye of Soul return. Now, another sniper rifle brought to us in the kinetic slot. And at this point, I think Bungie is just saying, screw everything else. We're just putting everything in the game this season in the kinetic slot. And this weapon is a 90 round per minute sniper, putting it in the same archetype as our dearly beloved. Now, beloved, that weapon's on crack. Let's just be real. It's got crazy target acquisition. Eye of the Soul here is going to have to bring something to the table that makes it stand out over Beloved, and I think it does. Notice that the scope here, yes, that's right, boys. That looks awfully like short gaze. Short gaze might actually be returning, meaning you're going to get that low zoom scope, that wide field of view, but the target acquisition and ease of use that is already present there on Beloved. Now, the options I would actually go for is actually 2 for my PvP players. Number 1, 90 round per minute snipers cannot one-shot kill or one-crit kill supers. So for those moments that a super is popped on you, say rounds 3 or 4, snapshot and box breathing together might be a great option for you. Maybe even something like firmly planted and box breathing. You just want to get set up somewhere. You know that guy's coming at you with a Dawn Blade. You want to make sure you hit him. So you sit in the back of the map like the try-hard that you are, with firmly planted activated while being crouched and box breathing for that increase in damage. Now, for my players that just want a consistent sniper, whether that's inside of trials, whether that's in comp, lol, who's playing in that playlist this season, or whether that's just in basic 6v6, snapshot and opening shot together, still a fantastic trait combination. That's deadly. I don't even think I've seen that on this archetype of sniper rifle. You can definitely still go that route. And for my players that just want a sniper rifle to clutch up in those 1v3 activities, you can honestly either go the route of snapshot and celerity together. And again, I am really banking. I'm putting all of my eggs in the basket of celerity. I think it's going to be deadly. I have no proof of that, but it looks like a sexy perk. How often do you see a bullet with angel wings and a halo? Now, for my players that like shenanigans, and I like shenanigans too, hip fire and opening shot. Yes, we did a build last year where we just kind of like ran around and hip fired everybody. This sniper rifle can definitely do that. And considering that 90 round per minute sniper rifles already have great target acquisition, this could be nasty. Now, for PvE players, it does come with Vorpal weapon, although I don't think I would use this over something like Trophy Hunter, especially considering that sniper rifles did just get a nerf. But Vorpal does allow it to still maintain damage against bosses, as well as, of course, vehicles and guardians in their super, which now that I think about it, Vorpal might actually be better than box breathing. I don't know. We'll have to test that. Jesus. Yeah, you might actually want to go snapshot and Vorpal together for PvP for those moments you want to pick off those supers. This is going to require some testing. But for PvE players, Field Prep and Vorpal might actually give weapons like Trophy Hunter and what's the other one? Tranquility, Soul Survivor with Firing Line. Might actually give those weapons a run for their money now. Now, moving on. The return of a very popular Dead Orbit SMG, Escape Velocity, which is present in the kinetic slot. Oh my god, what the hell's happening? What is happening right now? This is a 900 round per minute SMG. I didn't really like this weapon. I think Sheik liked it. Now, this is a 900 round per minute SMG, but it's a 15 impact variant. Put that in perspective, it's in the same archetype as Recluse. Now, perk-wise, it's got some unique stuff, but nothing here that makes me just jump out and think that this weapon's gonna be disgusting inside of PvP, but I could be wrong. It does come with the option of something like Zim Moment and Quick Draw, which is actually pretty interesting. It will be super stable, super consistent, and that immediate draw time. If you mainly utilize the SMG as purely a fallback weapon, then this could be good. For PvE though, we have a number of options. You've got Osmosis, which I definitely wouldn't overlook. Maybe even something like Osmosis and either Grave Robber or Osmosis and Overflow. Those are some pretty decent trait combinations. Now, it does come with Surrounded as well, which some people are going to think that Surrounded and Overflow together would be the obvious way to go. I have actually been steering away from Surrounded on all weapons except for shotguns and swords. That's pretty much it. Because most weapons, you have to be too close. And SMGs don't have the ass in them to handle all that stop activity. So until we actually see a buff there to that radius proc for Surrounded and Surrounded Spec, I don't necessarily want it on any other weapon outside of weapons that require me to be very close to my enemies. Now, next up, we have the Summoner. By God, have we been debated. I could have swore it was Doctrine of Passing. I wanted to believe it. I knew it had a gun model very similar to Summoner, but I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I let me get fooled. I saw it. I felt like it was probably the Summoner, but I wanted to believe that it was Doctrine. This is a legendary energy auto rifle. Oh my god, the first one in the energy slot. It's a 600 round per minute auto, and if you haven't noticed, guys, 600s are absolutely disgusting. Hard light is literally bending folks over right now inside of Crucible and making them rethink life. Summoner might actually do the same exact thing. It's got some pretty decent stats, and as far as trait combinations, oh boy. First up, let's just get Celerity out of the way. Yes, on this auto rifle, considering that the time to kill values for 600s now are 0.7 seconds, having something like Celerity for all those benefits of reduction in flinch, target acquisition, you might actually see someone clutch up in a 1v3 with this auto rifle. Now, you have options. You You can give it more target acquisition with moving target. You can give it more stability with Zen moment, which actually might be the route to go, considering you're already going to gain increased target acquisition with celerity to begin with. Yeah, I would actually consider that. Now, the one thing that 600s and most other auto rifles fall short of is range, especially like 600s and 720s, which makes us question, what if? What if we took rangefinder and moving target together, threw it on his auto rifle, and got nasty? I think it could do it. It could definitely put the hurt on people. Now, as far as our other traits, especially for PvE, I do not want us to overlook Dragonfly. Yes, Dragonfly is present on this weapon, and of course you got Overflow next to it. I love seeing all these new weapons with Overflow. Those two together in the Dragonfly spec, you're gonna have some crazy explosions. Now, moving on, we have the Fusion Rifle, which is also gonna be in the energy slot, of course. Yeah. It's an 860 charge time, which means goodbye to air intel, I guess. I don't know. I haven't even played with air intel since the nerf. Now, Exile's Curse has a number of unique traits here. I'm seeing multi-kill clip, which is very unique. I don't see that on Fusion Rifles ever. I'm also seeing Disruption Break, Celerity. I'm also seeing Elemental Capacitor, which we don't really get hung up on, but it does give like these side buffs depending on the subclass you're rocking. Maybe if I went the route of increased stability with Elemental Capacitor, if I'm rocking a Void subclass and something like Firmly Planted, oh, that could be good. Now, something I've actually never tried, and I'm almost certain it will not work, is Grave Robber multi-kill clip. Can Grave Robber activate something like multi-kill clip? I'm almost certain it cannot. Something I am curious about. If it cannot, though, I would honestly just utilize something like Field Prep and multi-kill clip together inside of PvE. Maybe dabble with some Disruption Break. And for PvP, I would probably look into something like Celerity. Maybe Celerity and no distractions for that clutch roll for those 1v3 situations. Either way it goes, it's kind of an oddball, and I really just don't know where Fusion Rifles sit. So we'll just have to play with that one. Moving on, we have another Fusion Rifle called Timeline's VERTEX. Now, this is actually a 660 charge time fusion, which a lot of people don't necessarily use, but it has some unique traits. It does come with backup plan, which does make me wonder how that scales. Like high impact and backup plan drops that impact damage down to match that of like rapid fire fusions. I'm assuming it still drops to rapid here, right? Am I getting that right? I'm still curious to know how this archetype handles that though. In terms of its other traits, we do still have something like Disruption Break, Demolitionist, Elemental Capacitor. For my PvP users though, and I hate to even show this one, depending on how consistent this one is, something like Firmly Planted and Demolitionist together. For my handheld supernova guys, oh my god, am I really saying this out loud? But yeah, I'm just saying it would be effective. Again, none of this works if this fusion rifle sucks, and I can't even remember using it. For my PvE users though, I always love the option of just having a weapon with shield disorient and disruption break together, just in case you deal with those shielded enemies. And one day, we will have the ability to damage barrier champions with special weapons. I don't know when it's gonna come, but that would be nasty. Now, our next weapon, another energy weapon. Oh, thank God, man. I'm so happy we actually have some more energy weapons. The JIAN 7 rifle. Dude, I hope I'm saying that right. Am I saying that right? JIAN? Now, this is a 390 round per minute pulse, and I would say it was pretty popular back in year one. Looking at these trait combinations, I really think it can be a contender against weapons like Bygones, other 390s that are very good, Last Perdition, etc. Looking at these trait combinations though, it comes with Disruption Break, which is interesting, right? Yes, Disruption Break works inside of PvP. Think of half of your health being actual health, and then the other half of your health being shield, right? Or close enough. Considering that this is a 390 round per minute pulse, you're doing 31 damage per crit, meaning after one burst, if you land all crits, it is a possibility here, guys, that you do activate Disruption Break. This is going to require some testing. Upon doing so, though, this 390 might actually be able to 2-tap or 2 bursts. 6 crits, 2 bursts. It's possible. Don't quote me on it. Maybe combine something like, I don't know, Disruption Break with Rampage and just get super nasty with it. Because I know for sure 1 stack of Rampage with this pulse rifle will easily proc Disruption Break for the second burst. And then, of course, if you're looking for just a consistent roll, you can't go wrong with Zen Moment and Rangefinder together, or even something like Zen and Rampage or Zen and Swash. And for my players that just like to lane and be the ultimate laning Larry, then by all means, Firmly Planted. Maybe combine that with Rangefinder. Yeah, you can sit in one spot of the map and touch just about everybody with that improved accuracy and range. Now for PvE, pretty much everything here can go. The only downside is we've got no reload perks. So you're really gonna have to rely on possibly a reload masterwork, maybe a reload magazine perk. You know how I mentioned that you don't need full auto? For this situation, for my PvE players, you might want to consider it, you know? You might want to consider full auto in Dragonfly or full auto in Rampage. It does come with the Grave Robber robber swashbuckler combo, which is a weird one on a pulse rifle. We normally don't see that. But yes, you can definitely still go that route, but it's just going to require you to get close and personal if you're looking to proc those two together, which is normally like outside of what a pulse rifle is trying to do, right? You're trying to like stay back on people. Unfortunately, we don't have anti-barrier rounds for pulse rifles this season, so something like Disruption Break cannot be utilized. But that's not to say it won't happen next season or the season after. Your weapon will be retired, so it doesn't really matter. Damn, that's depressing. Moving on. We have the 7th SERAPH CQC-12. Oh, baby, that looks sexy. It's an energy shotgun, 80 rounds per minute, putting in the same archetype as other lightweight frame shotguns, things like Hawthorns, Parcel. Honestly, I think they're the best feeling archetype this season. Now, this one definitely seems to be more gauged at PvE, but do not overlook what we're seeing here for PvP, as you can utilize it with something like Quick Draw and Snapshot together, or even something like Slide Shot and Snapshot together. Very consistent traits and perks. Could definitely make this shotgun super nasty. Now, for my PvE players, yes, there's Trench Barrel. Now, I'm under the personal opinion that Trench Barrel, considering we don't have auto reload anymore, should get a buff. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if Trench Barrel is going to go back to what it was back in Warmont. I also didn't believe Trials was ever going to come back. All I'm saying is things can happen, fellas, and we might actually get Trench Barrel unnerfed or buffed or rebuffed. So maybe something like Trench Barrel and Lead from Gold together. That would probably be an option I would go for. Outside of that, I really wish it would have came with like Vorpal and Trench Barrel together, because that would have been disgusting, considering it's supposed to be the ultimate close quarter shotgun, right? Because it's in the name, you know? Now, the next weapon, 7th SERAPH SI2. This is a legendary energy sidearm, a 360 round per minute sidearm at that, putting it in an archetype that not many sidearms exist. I think Autumn Wind, or I mean, Anonymous Wind, Autumn Wind, Jesus, getting my weapons mixed up. Anonymous Autumn is the only sidearm I can think of in that archetype, one at least that I keep in my vault actively. Now, this 7th SERAPH SI2 has some unique traits here. The ones that jump out to me, yes, I'm seeing some Dragonfly action, maybe even something like Full Auto and Dragonfly together, maybe even Demolitionist and Dragonfly together. It also comes with something like Zen Moment. You can pair that up with Demolitionist for your grenade builds, especially in something like PvP. Outside of that, I'm not that impressed. I don't think you need something like Snapshot. The current Anonymous Autumn that I have came with something like Rangefinder and Full Auto, which I will say Full Auto, really on this 360 sidearm is pretty nice. You just literally let it spam. So instead of going the route of something like Rangefinder for that increase there in range, just pairing it with something like Zen might just be the catalyst that allows this thing to stay consistent in those gunfights. And it could actually become better than something like Anonymous Autumn, although that's a pretty tough one. Now, our next weapon, Distant Tumulus, right? Am I saying that right? Oh, dude, I think I nailed it. This is a 140 round per minute sniper rifle, has the same body of Apostate essentially. And this was the dead orbit sniper rifle, right? I'm trying to remember. I don't even remember playing with this one. Now, it comes with some pretty unique traits. Number one, yes, opening shot. Now, opening shot benefits just about every weapon it's on, but on a 140 sniper that notoriously has pretty piss poor range, this is pretty nice. Now, it also comes with something like firing line, which is a great trait for PvE. Maybe if you wanted to go the route of firing line and Lead from Gold, or even something like Clown Cartridge, those are definitely options. The only thing that's really hurting this weapon to me is that first column doesn't really have anything desirable there to pair it with that second column for PvP. Like, I would love opening shot and like Snapshot together or Quick Draw together. That's the only thing that's like dragging this weapon down. And if Clown Cartridge actually granted ammo instead of just randomly overfilling it based on your reserves, I do wonder though, does Clown Cartridge work if you're just reloading one round? Will it just randomly overfill it from thin air? Oh, that could be it, man. That could be it. I don't know. We'll just have to test it out. But that is Distant Tumulus. Moving on, we have the 7th SERAPH VY7, a submachine gun present in our energy slot, a 600 round per minute SMG at that. Its traits, it's like it's got an identity crisis between being a PvE weapon and a PvP weapon, but kind of failing at both. You could go the route of 4 times the charm and Dragonfly, which just seems kind of weird. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. You can also go the route of 4 times the charm and Feeding Frenzy. Just be the ultimate reload machine. None of these are impressing me. The only thing that I'm like kind of curious about is maybe Firmly Planted, Elemental Capacitor, loading out that Void subclass, and just seeing like what's the stability here. How stable can we get? It's got a decent range stat, but nothing but barrel perks. It's not anti-oak. It can't get scopes. It can't boost that zoom. Is this a crappy SMG? I'm not gonna go that far, but it's nothing that impressive, at least trait-wise. Now, our next weapon, Interference. This was actually the new Monarchy grenade launcher, and no lie, this may be the next meta for a number of reasons. Number one, it's a 120 round per minute grenade launcher, and considering that 150s just got nerfed, word on the street is 120s is where it's at. Now, this one comes with full cart, field prep, spike grenades, which of course is like the godly combo for all grenade launchers, especially 150s. I don't believe we've had this same perk combination present for 120s. Correct me if I'm wrong. Pretty sure Doomsday almost had all of these, except you couldn't get full cord and spike. But again, I could be definitely wrong here. Either way it goes, this is a royal drop, and that would be the trait combination that I would go for. It also comes with something like Clown Cartridge, which is also a weird one. And maybe if you have a very small window there to do DPS, activating something like Clown Cartridge, I think Dimitri was telling me he was holding up to like 11 rounds in his grenade launcher earlier, which is a pretty nice damage phase. Now our next weapon, we have the 7th SERAPH Saw. This is that LMG we've seen. It's a 360 round per minute LMG, putting in the same archetype as things like Fixed Odds. Not a very popular archetype. I don't see many people using them. A lot of people still like 450s, things like Hammerhead, but this one may actually have a shot. It comes with firing line, which we have never seen on an LMG before. So in fire team scenarios, firing line, field prep together could be nasty. Now, it's been said amongst PvE players that anyone that relies on an LMG for DPS might as well be pissing in the wind. So maybe that might not be the best route, but at the same time, firing line is still something to look at. Outside of that, for PvP, I would really consider something like Zen Moment, as most of these 360s do have a lot of hop. And in that final column, you've got options, man. You can go the route of opening shot, which will always maintain that kill just about every engagement. Normally, as long as you can land the first shot of your LMG, you got it, man. You're gonna kill him. I mean, that's a 0.5 second time to kill value at 4 crits. At the same time, I'm a sucker for Disruption Break. I wanna see what Disruption does on this thing. Disruption, baby. I love you. Now, our next weapon, we have Tomorrow's Answer. This is a legendary power rocket launcher. It shoots at 15 rounds per minute, putting in the same archetype as Pyroclastic Float, which, by the way, I very much love. I like Pyroclastic. Now, this one has a couple of unique traits. I see some Clown Cartridge right there, which is definitely not something to overlook. You've got Impact Casing, which also gives you that increase in damage on direct hits. Outside of that, I don't know, it's hard to say. I almost feel like rocket launchers need a buff, right? Like, I want to say Cluster Bombs, because it's great for taking out multiple enemies, but at the same time, I feel like Cluster Bomb needs some help. What I wish was on this rocket launcher, considering it is the Trials rocket launcher, is horseshoes and grenades, or grenades and horseshoes. Getting all kinds of backwards today. Grenades and horseshoes would have been so nasty to have here, and would have been a great opportunity for Bungie here to give us back that trait. But whatever. It's whatever, Bungie. Now, the final weapon on this list, Honor's Edge. The new Monarchy sword has returned to us, and yes, it's actually got a new sword trait that we've never seen before. Flash Counter. Melee blocked immediately after guarding, disorients and weakens the attacker. Oh my god. If this works on stomp mechanics, this is crazy. He goes in for the stop, you block, and simultaneously it weakens and disorients them. Now the question I have is, how long does it disorient them? Now the trait combo that I would pair there with Flash Counter, I wish we could pair Counterattack. Like, such a missed opportunity, Bungie. Why you do this? Why? It's like you get us almost to the finish line, and right when we're getting ready to blow our load, you call it a day. What the hell? Counterattack and Flash Counter together would have been disgusting here. Instead, I don't know, maybe energy transfer, guarding while receiving damage, generates class ability energy. I don't know, man. So many good traits in this final column that would have been great to pair there with Flash Counter. If you don't want to utilize something like Flash Counter though, you can still go the route of something like Surround It. You're already using a sword. You are all up on your enemies. And then of course, Counterattack itself is a great damage dealing perk that allows you to get that increase in damage for a short duration immediately after blocking. Now, that's only for 2 seconds, no longer 5. Mega bummer. Mega bummer, Bungie. God dog it, Bungie. Why? Swords could have been great, man. Well, fellas, that is your weapons, all of your legendary weapons for this season. No, we didn't go over exotics, but we'll be reviewing them as time goes on. I just wanted to touch up on the god rolls, or the potential god rolls that you can get on all of these legendary weapons. Hopefully, Season of the Worthy will be kind of like Season of the Dawn, where as the season progresses, obtaining god rolls for these weapons become easier and easier. So feel free to look back on this guide whenever you like. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.